Oh, yeah! This is the manly man, Randy Brutal, talking at ya. When I'm on the road, I pass the time between matches, snapping into Slim Jims, and listening to the Sean Geek podcast, which I download off of SeanMcGinnity.ca. That's the Sean Geek podcast, downloaded off of SeanMcGinnity.ca, brother. Oh, yeah!
Good morning. How you doing?
Not bad.
Not bad?
Oh, yeah, I'm getting kickback here.
Oh, from me?
No, for me.
Oh. Okay. Like a slapback?
Yeah, it's like half a second, and then it just comes back. Oh, there it's gone.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, what'd you do?
Nothing. I just sat here.
Wow.
Something must have clicked. I'm looking at the controls going, well, I've got the part that's all the way down to prevent the slapback, but the auxiliary. Huh. Okay. Because that's what I've got you plugged into. That's that whole setup thing where you have to kind of get it in. Plus, this is my new board, so this is a little bit different, but kind of the same. The other one I haven't. It came back actually repaired.
Really?
Yeah, it came back repaired. I got an RMA number. I sent it to Ontario somewhere, and then they sent it back repaired. I still haven't pulled it out of the box to test it because I got my other one all set up. So it's kind of a backup now.
Oh.
Yeah, that'll be be part of the on the road kit.
Nice. You need an on-road bag.
Yeah, I do. It's one of those the luggage thing with the wheels at the bottom.
Like a mini carry-on.
Yeah. Well, like regular luggage with the handle. It's the big one, like the same one I brought to KeyCon. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, because you had your luggage for that. I remember now.
Yeah.
So, how many days have I been locked in?
In isolation?
Yeah.
Well, I don't. It seems longer than it probably is. Been what, like 2 weeks? There's 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It seems like a month and a half, but I don't. I don't know. Everything changes day by day, so it just kind of. I know it slows everything down, I guess. It's just slow.
I know I was home. I was working from home before everyone else was. So it's been longer for me than most people.
Yeah.
Because as soon as, things started getting weird, the boss is like, okay, go home. You can work from home. You're set up, right? I'm like, yep. And that was it.
Yeah,
So I think I had a week and a half over everyone else, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, you're lucky you were able to do that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like my new office setup too. So what I've been doing is I try to get down like an hour early.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't have to work early that day, I will set up my Scrivener, which is what I do my writing in. It's like a Word program.
Right.
But like it's super Word. And because I've got a three monitor setup,
mm-hmm.
I'm able to do my writing with 3 screens, which is actually really helpful because oftentimes I'll have a reference when I'm doing stuff. I'll have a reference open of a room that the scene's taking place in, or the city, or there's a whole cast of characters in a particular scene.
Mm-hmm.
And usually what I do is I have all that stuff open, and then I'm doing Alt Tab to switch between the different windows that are open.
Okay.
But now I can just have everything open up on my right screen, I do my writing on the middle screen,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can have a secondary resource open on my left screen. So it's much easier to write in this office setup. Like,
Wow.
if anything, this has made the writing
Easier?
easier. And yeah, and I have to have a big table for the 3 monitors
Mm-hmm.
to handle them. So I actually, and they're all kind of like against the wall because they're not right in front of my face.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a big space to open my printed version of the book, so I can actually, with all my notes, because I
Wow.
did a physical edit, right, on an actual physical copy.
Right.
So I have that open, so it's like it's comfortable. Because usually I'd have the written version on my lap under the table, and then I would sit back and flip through the pages, and then it was just a little bit more cumbersome.
So your workflow is a lot better now.
Way better.
Yeah, you don't have to
Way
stop
better.
and think and move and then flip a page and then you lose your thought. Everything's right in front of you. You just kind of
Yeah,
flow.
exactly. Yeah,
You can do a whole thought without being interrupted.
yeah, exactly. Because like I was like, oh, what's that person's hair color? And I just look to the left
Right.
or to the right, depending on where I'm using. And oh, okay, there it is. Because usually I use character reference pictures as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm like describing a particular person in a scene, I've got that picture open up on one of the other monitors, and then I'm like, okay. So if I'm describing something, like I've got everything there. I don't know. I wonder if that's how professional writers do their thing. Are they just working off one monitor, or are they using multiple? I'd be curious.
Well, the days of the typewriter, they probably wouldn't. But nowadays, I guess with all the being able to link multiple monitors together, I'm sure it makes the workspace a lot more user friendly.
Yeah, and most people I think are writing in front of a screen, right? Like nowadays,
Normally.
like they're
Yeah,
not.
nowadays,
They're
yeah.
not.
It's not a
I
typewriter.
mean,
You have to flip the page up and go, what did I write?
unless you're Mick Foley, Mick Foley the wrestler.
Yeah.
He's written at least 3 books, like kind of biography books of his wrestling career and stuff, and he writes them all on longhand.
Like written
Like,
by hand?
Yep. So he would travel, from arena to arena, show to show, and he would have his big freaking, I don't know, binder or whatever he was writing in.
Low tech.
And I'm like, if that ever got lost, man.
Yeah, that's the kicker. Yeah, you don't want your luggage. You want that on your carry-on.
Yeah. Oh God.
Your whole life's work on
Oh my God.
written out on paper. But then
Yeah,
again, it's just as easier to lose everything on a tablet or something if you lose a tablet. So
Yeah, but I mean, what I do is I have backups. I use Dropbox, and
yes,
I've got backups everywhere because
always back up your work.
That's right. Always, always. Have you ever lost anything because you didn't have a backup, like anything precious?
Once.
Yeah. What was it?
You know what? It was probably so long ago. I think it was just. It was
Pictures
just
or
something.
something?
It was just something in general. It wasn't anything that it was like, oh my God, my life is over type thing. It's my life's work. But this was more of experience. When you experience life and things happen and you readjust. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much what happened. And ever since then, anytime if I do a Word document or I start an email, or I always make sure there's a draft that's saved or there's a copy that's saved. And sometimes, and depending on how important it is, I'll save it in 2 different spots. Because I'll have it either. Yeah. I mean, now they have Dropbox and your all the clouds, whether you're Apple or your Hotmail has a cloud. There's clouds everywhere, so you can always put it up there. So you don't have to worry about any physical piece of equipment that you have that's gone missing. So I've got hard drives that are old that I've kind of preserved. I'm not running them. Because being that they were 10 years old or something, because if something happens, because I've got stuff on them I want to keep. But then when the hard drives got bigger, like the terabytes and stuff, then what I did is I transferred what I had on my old drive to the new drive, but I kept the old drive because like I said, you never know,
backup.
right?
There's your backup. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't have,
Were you ever doing stuff on like pre that? Were you just burning shit to CDs then?
what do you mean?
Like what I was doing is I was actually making data CDs as backups all the time.
Right. I would maybe once a year. What I would do is all my programs, my favorite programs or whatnot, I would burn them on a disc, and then I would have them for later. Yeah.
Like the EXEs or whatever.
Yeah, like just kind of programs that I would download and some files and stuff, and then I would just kind of write on the disc, and then I would put it on the shelf, and then I would have a hard copy of it, kind of sort of thing, digital copy. So I'm not too sure what the degradation period is of discs, because they've been out for how long have they been out now?
Oh my God, would it be the 90s, late 90s?
Yeah, I'm not too sure because I know as time went on, I'm sure they found easier ways to manufacture them, making the metal thinner in between the plastics and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I know that when I used to, say, back up movies and stuff that I had, I would use these discs. Sometimes they would work, sometimes they wouldn't.
Yes.
And because they're cheap discs, it's like, how much information do you want to put on here that's important to you, that you want to hang on to? You just made sure I had my TDKs or my, all these other brands that I would hold on to.
That's a name brand. Are they even around anymore? TDK.
TDK, Memorex, especially Memorex. Yeah, so
Memorex, yeah.
Yeah, so those ones I would, like the brand name ones I would keep, and then the no-name brand ones, like the blank ones and stuff, those ones I would put, whatever. If it wasn't a big deal, I would burn them on there. But nowadays, I mean, you buy a laptop nowadays, sometimes they don't even come with the discs. They're just
no. Well, yeah, mine doesn't.
It's all USB now, because it went from okay, well now you have to have was it the floppy drive. And then went from the floppy drive to the hard drive.
Oh yeah, you'd have to have a flop. You'd have to have the what's it called? The
1.44, I think was the
1.44.
That was the newer one. Like the bigger one was the old discs, right?
Yeah, the old floppy.
Right, and then the smaller floppies, and then I kept the smaller floppies, and I had programs on them, and I kept them in a case and whatnot. And then when you upgraded to a different computer, at one point it was like, oh well, they don't come with these. The readers for discs anymore, so then you had to buy an external one if you needed one, and then they went to CDs, and then they went CDs, and then you went to DVDs, and then DVDs went to Bluray, and I mean, last couple of years, I can't remember now, 5 years ago. I mean, the last laptop I bought was a DVD. They were DVDs, they weren't Blu-rays, because Blu-rays were like really stupidly priced.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
you can buy a Blu-ray player now for like $30-$40.
The only reason I would buy one now is if I have a TV that's not a smart TV and it had that stuff built in. Otherwise, I don't really have a use for it. I've got old Blu-rays that I've got in boxes downstairs, and it's like I'm never gonna watch them again. If I want to watch it, I'm sure it's either on Netflix or it'll be on somewhere where I can actually watch it. So it's.
I remember there was the big controversy with the Xbox 3, not controversy, but with the 360 that was around at the advent of the Blu-ray, and it was a DVD. The Xbox was a DVD. Only did DVDs, but it also did. I think it did another format as well, because there's a double layer to the tray of a 360.
Did the 360 play with Blu-ray, or that didn't quite come out yet?
No, it didn't. And then I remember the PS was doing Blu-rays, and that was the big, kerfuffle between the two companies.
Right.
And people were picking, the PS over the Xbox 360 because, well, we can do Blu-rays on ours. Exactly. So then there was talk of a backwards thing. You could maybe buy a Blu-ray player to hook into your Xbox. But then it's like, why don't you just have a Blu-ray player then anyway? But Blu-ray players back then were like $400 or whatever it was.
Really expensive.
And you could buy an attachment for your Xbox for, $250. When you bought your 360 for like $300, it was.
Yeah.
It was a really weird time, because I remember I'd want to I wanted to get a Blu-ray player because, Blu-rays were the thing, and, the quality was vastly superior, because that was a massive step up
Right.
from DVD. But it's like, do I just wait? Because I'm sure, they keep talking about the new Xbox, and the new Xbox will probably have Blu-ray, but who knows? And I kept waiting and waiting and waiting. And then finally, when the Xbox One came out, it wasn't playing Blu-rays. And I'm like, I waited all this time to buy a Blu-ray player, and it doesn't play Blu-rays.
Yeah.
And I was pissed.
Yeah.
But then what I found. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What were you saying?
Well, I was going to say, then I found out you had to download a program, but it wasn't available yet.
An emulator?
So you had to download this. Yeah. It was like so it could read the Blu-ray, but it didn't have any. It could take the Blu-ray, but it couldn't read it. So they eventually designed a program called Blu-ray Player, which was, the actual BLURAY
right
thing, and then you could read Blu-rays on there. But when it came out, it didn't have stuff. That's the thing. It just didn't have. It was like it was released, but they didn't. I guess the plan was to keep expanding and adding to it.
Right.
But I had a big problem with Blu-rays. I'm like, well, I was like, screw you. I'm not buying Blu-ray. I kept waiting and waiting and waiting.
Right.
And then, it's like, I'm not going to buy a Blu-ray player that can't play video games. Like, it didn't make sense to me.
Right.
Because we use our Xbox for everything.
Well,
that's our smart TV.
Yeah. There was one point where I was looking into the Xboxes and the PlayStations and trying to figure out, okay, which is the one to get. So there's some subtle differences between both. I mean, the game wise, I think both formats would cover certain games. So if they advertise the game on TV, it's available on,
Yeah.
It's just like when you're buying records, cassettes, whatever type of thing. And depending on the console that you had. Now the thing was you already had the Xbox. So it was like, okay, well, I can get the Xbox, but then it's like, well, then you have to buy a membership, and I'm thinking, membership? That's the whole.
We talked about that a few times.
Yeah, I mean, I bought the regular Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, the Wii. I've never ever the Sega? What was it called? Sega Genesis and all those things, and not once was there ever. You had to actually buy a membership pay a membership every month, like whether it sat there collecting dust or if you were actually playing it. So,
I know the PS, their big thing was, hey, we have something like that, but you don't need it to play the games. That was their big claim to fame, but I don't think it works like that now.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So that's why I always stuck with PC. It's just cheaper. So you just buy a better unit for yourself to be able to play the games. That's the most expensive part. But once you have it, it's good for a while until the games jump to the point where, a new console comes out and it just leaps and bounds from the last model. So what do you think of my morning voice? This is my morning voice.
It's very deep.
Is it soothing?
It's very deep.
My soothing voice.
I finally got my voice back. I'd lost it. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
So,
did it get stronger?
Say something. Yeah, it's stronger. Every time, like when we were doing the dome stuff, that actually made my voice a lot stronger, right? in different ways.
So you break it down, it builds back up again. You break it down, it builds back up again.
Yeah, so I've actually been doing, since this self-isolation thing, I've been hitting the gym 3 times a week. I'm following a workout. I just downloaded an app called Dumbbells.
Dumbbells?
Yeah, it's just called Dumbbells. And I'm just using, I'm not using my my bars. I'm just using my dumbbells and my bench. And I have got a nice little gym set up here.
So are you still doing your, was it DDT yoga?
DDP?
DDP?
I'm doing it when I feel like I need to. Like if I start to get really tight or sore or whatever, I'll do a DDP workout. That's DDP yoga. from Diamond Dallas Page. I'll do one of those just to kind of stretch myself out.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, like all these weight workouts, like I looked at a bunch and I've tried a bunch over the years, and all these weight workouts, none of them have abs in it, which I always thought was weird. And none of them have stretching exercises,
Hmm.
which I found weird. So, all my years of slinging weights around, I've never bothered stretching. It's like, the hell?
So if you go in cold with this yoga thing, is the yoga that is what warms you up, or is that the part
Yeah.
that's...
Oh, yeah. No,
So
it's all part.
so
Like,
you don't need to then.
you don't need to do anything. You put your DDP on, you grab the workout you're going to do, and it takes you through everything. And it covers, the DDP is pretty good, is that it covers your whole body,
Mm-hmm.
like even biceps and stuff. But it does weird. I don't want to get into a whole exercise thing here, but it
Use compound
actually,
movement. Does it use compound movements? So it's working
yeah.
more than one muscle
Oh, yeah.
group at a time.
Yes, correct. Yep.
Okay, so that's...
Yeah. It's called dynamic resistance. So you're supposed to be doing, you're supposed to be flexing through the entire movement. So if your arms out straight, you're supposed to have your fingers extended and kind of flexing out with your fingers.
Mm-hmm.
So that means like your wrists and your forearms and your bicep, tricep is all supposed to be flexed while you're just holding it out straight. So you start there, and then you move your arm over your head, and you're supposed to be flexing. The idea is you're flexing you're flexing and doing a movement while you're flexing.
Really?
Which is called dynamic resistance. So the idea is that you're working a whole bunch of muscles at the same time. I mean, in dynamic resistance, it's not like doing weights. You're not going to bulk up like you would if you're doing weights. But
So is that like negative reps type thing, but not quite?
yeah, it's the idea of a negative rep. You're flexing on the way down.
Right. But this one you're flexing on the way up and down.
Yeah.
Because you're not
You're
using
flexing
really
through the entire...
any weights. You're using
Yeah.
your own body.
Exactly. And that's because that's more natural. Like your body's controlling it yourself, and there's not an extra weight. You're less likely to get hurt,
Mm-hmm.
but you're stretching the muscle out through the movement as well. So it's incorporating a stretch as well. Because if you're flexing your bicep and your arms out straight, it's stretching that bicep out.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and if you're moving it through this whole range of motion, the biceps stretching out in multiple different points at the same, as you're going through that motion. So it's not just... the dynamic resistance part of it is the key.
Hmm.
And I thought it was just malarkey when I started. Like, this is just dumb. Like,
That's the word.
I mean, you and I would go to the gym, man. We're slinging weights and we're insulting each other as we're working out, and we're pushing past the pain thresholds and all this stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
and then you do this, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you jacked, brother." It's like, and all I'm doing is waving my arms up around my head and shit. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy?
Put your hands in the air like you just don't care.
And he's got, I don't know, and the music's horrible and
cheesy.
Oh my god! Well, it's
90s.
like when you start out with anything, doesn't matter what you do.
Mm-hmm.
If you're starting out with something and you need background music, but you're not a musician, you're going to just grab something, right?
I need something with the
like
beat.
like people that start podcasts, like we know a lot of these guys, and they're just using free open license songs,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, they might be able to luck out on one that doesn't sound half bad, but the majority of them are going to be shit. It's like Zamfir and shit, So I mean, that's what he's using.
Unless that's what
it's
you're
just
into.
using. Oh, whatever.
If you want to be relaxed. When you're trying to pump up and work out.
Zamfir makes me tense.
Just my neck muscles just cramp up when I hear it. No.
Yeah. So the music's, it's bad. But I mean, the one I have it's like the one that he put out like originally. So now, now that he's made like a gazillion dollars on it,
Mm-hmm.
because once Joe Rogan put his name behind it, then it's like it blew the fuck up. Like it was blowing up, like maybe through accident or not, but DDP did a lot of right things in getting DDP promoted. You know, like his tagline, "This ain't your mama's yoga," you know, and just shit like that. And you know, he'd always incorporate his saying from wrestling where he goes bang, and everything's called the diamond cutter. You know, he's just
named after for fucking it all, the chainsaw.
Oh yeah, he's got shit named, like he's always name dropping wrestling stuff in there, and it makes it cheesy as hell.
Now, has he copyrighted any of these terms?
No, but he's friends with all these guys. But you know, he does his diamond cutter. He just makes a diamond with his two hands. He puts his four fingers and his thumbs together, and it looks kind of like a diamond, but it looks more like an ass or a heart or something. And he would, before he'd do his diamond cutter move,
right,
he would do that symbol with his hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the workout, he incorporates that into it because, okay, I want you to put your thumbs together and your forefingers together, and I want you to put it to your chest. And it's like, okay, are you just like promoting your wrestling shtick right now? You're promoting the yoga. Like, how is this?
And a 1 and a 2.
And then, yeah,
I
and
just
then he
exercise my fingers and my wrist. There we go.
But you know, he's like, okay, put it to your chest and then push out using the diamond cutter move. And it's like, dude, whatever. Like, all that being said, like he rehabbed himself through that. Like his body, he's got like fused discs in his back. He's got discs in his back that don't have the spongy, fleshy stuff between the bones. Like he's missing a bunch.
Right.
And by doing yeah. And you know, just years of taking bad bumps and stuff.
Right.
But he talks about it, you know, his interview on Joe Rogan is actually really, really good. Like Joe Rogan's like kind of cuts past the mystique and, you know, and talks about stuff. And Joe Rogan actually cried in that episode.
Really?
It was like, yeah, it was really crazy. But you know, he's functioning, and they're like, you need surgery, you need surgery, and he's bypassed the surgery. And I mean, you look at this guy move, and he moves like a cat.
Yeah.
You know, but what the idea is that if your body is injured, it will find ways to repair itself. So his muscles in his back are supporting his spine, not the same as you or I would, because we have functioning backs, but because he's missing stuff in his back, his muscles have built around the damaged area to support extra support where it's needed and keep him functioning.
Right.
So that's how he's avoided surgery. Same thing with Chris Jericho, had the same thing. Like they said, surgery. And he's like, he did DDP yoga for a while, and you know, and because of the dynamic resistance thing, it builds muscle in a different way.
Dynamic resistance.
Yeah. DR. We're gonna do some DR rows here. Oh, kind of funny. I took under advisement here your Tiger King.
Okay. Did you watch it?
I'm 3/4 of the way through episode 2.
Okay, so you just scratched the surface.
Well, I'm like, the first episode's like, okay, well, it's kind of interesting and it's redneckish, and it's like, oh god, like sure. I hate all those reality shows, pawn traders, and
those ones I'm not too interested in.
Like all these. And I'm trying to be politically correct here, but they're rednecks,
right?
And you're supposed to fall in love with them because they're rednecks, but then they say and do things that, you know, they're people I would never associate with because they're actually not very good people.
You know who would have been a perfect person to narrate that show? Jeff Foxworthy.
Oh yeah. Actually, that would have been perfect.
That would have been right up his alley. Could be his neighbor. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know. Yeah. So I was like, you know, that's kind of like, as soon as we hit redneck territory, I'm deterred right away. I was like, but everyone keeps talking about it, and then your endorsement on it is like, okay, finally, I'll give this thing a freaking shot.
Yeah, you
And
have to go in a few episodes before you kind of go like, what the hell?
well, it was interesting, okay, and interesting enough, but it's like I don't know if I'm gonna make it through. I don't know how many episodes there are, but like there's, I'll give it another episode try, and then at the end of the episode one, he's in jail, and like what? Like 4 years later, and he's in jail. Like what? Like so very smart editing.
Yeah.
Like deciding on to have that there because of okay, now I got to see what happened. Like I don't know. And then in episode 2, where there's the accident, one of his employees has an accident with one of the animals.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well now I'm intrigued. Now we're talking about.
Now there's.
Well, it's like okay, it's like watching a car crash.
Yeah.
It's totally watching a car crash. It's not good, and I already determined like I don't like any of these people.
Right.
Like I don't like. There's nothing to like. Like they're all
no. It's
so far they're all deplorable, and I don't know if anyone ever gets redemption in this show where it's like, you know what? Here's a good person. I haven't found one yet.
Well,
but I mean, I'm only 2 episodes in, so.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming there's going to be a cliffhanger at the end of episode 2 to make me watch episode 3.
I can't remember offhand, but just in general, the whole, as it goes on, it's just more things are revealed and you're like shaking your head going, oh my God. Like, it's almost like, let's take all this information from all this different stuff and we're all going to compact it in one show. It's like, it's almost unbelievable.
Yeah.
But not really.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
that's what's kind of intriguing. And I'm sure, and when you said, like they filmed something and then it's like 2 years later. If that's the case, at what point did they say, you know what, we're going to make a documentary with this guy with the lions? Started how many years ago? That would have started how long ago? Say 2 years, and then plus the other time. So say 3-4 years, for example. Okay, so say Netflix or whatever wants to make a show. What are you gonna do? I know this guy out in out in the boonies there who has a bunch of lions, and there's more lions in captivity than there is out in the wild, and we're going to do a documentary on this guy. So they find this guy well, I don't want to give it away, but he's got so many different hats.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's one of those type of people who can't sit still. It's like mom almost.
Yes.
Like there's no grass growing underneath. They're always on the go, always moving, right?
Yep.
So I think that's what it is. Because of his type of personality, that's why he's done so much. And he just can't stop. It just go, 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 go.
Yeah, his country music career, and like, it's like, what the?
Well, he had a paramedic thing on at one point. I was like, oh, look, he's a paramedic too.
Yeah, he had the paramedic jacket on. Yeah.
He's a lion guy. What he's a paramedic. He's he does all this stuff. It's crazy.
I don't know. It's fascinating. The opulent living that I'm seeing with some of them is like, what the?
Yeah, well,
they got multiple wives, like, and everyone has like a freaking mansion.
Yeah.
And that's on his property. I'm like, how much money are you fucking making? or are you just spending? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. There's polygamy. There's everything. It's just one big ball.
So it's funny because I watched this because I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna finish watching what I'm watching and then I'll jump over to that. So I came over I was watching. I'm gonna look it up. What it's called. It was on Church of Scientology. Martin Theroux, I think the guy's name is. Oh, you still there?
Yep.
Okay, it's just started talking. I'll look it up here, just so I get the name right. And I highly recommend this. Like
I think I've watched a couple of Scientology type movies.
Oh, I put sexology. Oops.
It's a whole different movie.
Yeah, a whole bunch of types of movies are coming. Oh, it's called My Scientology Movie.
My Scientology Movie.
Add that to your list. Like honestly, it's just one. It's like
that's on Netflix.
An hour and a half. Yep.
My Scientology.
Yep, My Scientology Movie.
Okay, yeah, I can get into that.
And it's an hour, I don't know, it's an hour and a half or 2 hours or something. So I watched it over a span of like a week. Watch 20 minutes here, 15 minutes there.
Yeah, some of these.
So,
as I say, some of these religious things is well, I lost my train of thought, but it's yeah, they're interesting to watch. Between that and politics, yeah, sometimes you shake your head, you go, oh my God, some of these people and some of the followers for these politicians, you kind of, ask them a simple question, they can't really answer it, and they can't really give you a reason why. They just follow the herd type thing. But yeah, it's crazy.
So I watched that. So I'm going to backtrack. So how I get to where I'm watching now.
Okay.
So after watching that, I'm like, okay, I can watch this Tiger King. So I was watching the Scientology thing before, and it's basically about this guy. He's like, okay, you know what? I want to do a documentary, and he's a British guy. I don't know why that's relevant, but
how old is this movie? I may have seen. I think already.
I don't know.
Is that when they hold the bars and whatnot? It's got some type of a static type of thing to read your body, or I don't know. They do a whole bunch of weird stuff.
I just found another documentary on Satan. Okay, anyway,
Satan.
So anyway, so he's just this British guy. He's kind of fascinated with, and he always everyone's always trying to slam the Church of Scientology. He's like, I want to have a different approach. I want to come at it from a non-biased, non-hateful, see if I can find the good things about the church.
So open your mind and just let it flow, basically.
Yeah. So he starts doing the documentary, and while he's doing the documentary, all this weird shit's happening, throughout the whole thing. So instead of just being a documentary about Church of Scientology, and he's trying to point out, the good things the church has done,
mm-hmm.
a bunch of other things start happening while he's making it, and the documentary ends up being about that.
So it does it does a 360.
Well, it ends up not being. He's trying. He's a. I don't want to say typical British person. But he's always if you ever watch Death at a Funeral, he's kind of like the guy. He's never going to cause a ruckus, and he's always going to be polite, and I just want to film the documentary.
Right.
Let's do this documentary, and he's just nice about it. He's not being a dick. He's not. He's just I'm just going to make this film, and then these things keep happening, and it's you keep thinking that he's just going to lose his shit because of all this stuff happening, but he's just this nice British guy, and it's really fascinating. It's interesting. He had a plot going in, and then he's like, oh, I have a good idea. Let's recreate some scenes from known footage that we've seen, and let's cast actors and recreate these scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And it just goes off the fucking rails. and he's the Brit guy who's just trying to keep everything together and not lose his shit, because British people never lose their shit, right? That's kind of the general idea. He's that polite.
Stop, or I'll say stop again.
Exactly. And that's what he's doing. And then these people just keep getting in his face, and it's what's going to make this guy fucking pop? It's very, very, very entertaining. And then after, despite what he was trying to do, the people that kept interfering with his film,
mm-hmm.
they made the film about something else. So it's interesting because he was actually trying to do something nice and something good.
Right.
And some people came in and chop blocked him and made it end up being, something else. So it's really, really interesting. And I was just laughing the whole time. This poor guy, he's just trying to make a fucking documentary. He's not trying to ruffle any feathers. And
so when you say
he's trying to ruffle his feathers,
when you say they're trying to do something else, what exactly do you mean by that?
I don't want to give it away.
Oh, okay, but
I really don't want to give it away.
Is it still regarding the actual Scientology itself, or just
go
off the rails talking about something totally different?
Yeah, no, it's the Scientology itself.
It stays in the same realm. Okay.
Yeah, because I will say this much: the Scientologists get involved in his movie.
Okay. So basically, they probably don't want him doing it. So that's probably why it's getting off the
Yeah,
rails.
I'd really want you to watch it, and I want you to come back.
Okay.
Then we'll talk about it, because I'd really want to get your perspective on it, because I haven't seen a documentary like this before. It's like I don't know if you ever saw, there was the documentary that Bret Hart had done, called Wrestling with Shadows, and it was the whole point of the documentary was they wanted to chronicle, 6 months in the life of Bret Hart, like what it was like to be Bret Hart. He was the champion, and the time he was, he was kind of like the top wrestler in the world, and all this stuff. And it was just supposed to be a documentary of like what it's like to be Bret Hart.
Yeah, he was kind of the Hulk Hogan on his time.
Well, he was the successor to Hulk Hogan, more or less, right? Like he was where the industry changed, and they're not looking at the big giant anymore. They're looking at, the guy who works hard, and, the little guy who, overcomes everything.
A little less fluff and flashing lights and
more technique and technical
flashy
stuff.
Uniforms. Yeah. More technique.
It wasn't about gimmick. It was about, I work really hard. Content. And I'm the best. Yeah.
Right.
So halfway through, the whole thing with WCW happens, and then the Montreal Screwjob happened in the middle of the making of this documentary.
The Montreal Screwjob?
Yeah. You're not familiar with the Montreal Screwjob?
No, that's a new one.
It's a good documentary. I don't know if it might still be on Netflix, but it's probably one of my favorite documentaries. And I'm not a big wrestling guy at all anymore, but basically it was during the WCW WWF wars, where WCW, they had the NWO and all that stuff, and for the first time ever, WWF wasn't number one.
Right.
Like it wasn't the number one wrestling. All of a sudden, WCW was the number one, and they had all the heat, and they had they were doing great.
Yeah, they had all the competition. They brought
in. Well, they took Hulk, and they took Macho Man, and they took Roddy Piper, and they took all the old legends,
right,
and bought them all. So then all of a sudden WCW is the number one thing, and then Bret Hart's the champion in the WWF, which is now having declining ratings because they don't have the big names anymore. And then it talks a lot about money and stuff. But anyway, what Bret Hart wanted to do was he didn't really want to lose the belt. He didn't want to have a clean loss.
Right.
Like on his last night, and his last night was going to be in Montreal.
Right.
So I want to leave with dignity. I always wrestled with dignity. I always, upheld the business. I always, I never, I was always a good champion. I did all the stuff with the kids and the Children's Hospital Foundation. Like he did all those things. Like he did the things you're supposed to do as a champion,
right? Which
is to represent the company in a good light. He did all those things, like probably, better than, the only person that did as much as he did was Hogan. Like he was a really great champion.
Right.
In that regard, because being the champion is not just wrestling; it's all the stuff you do outside of the ring,
all the promo stuff with the kids,
all the promo stuff. But then, like they do a lot of donation stuff, and they give a lot of time to Children's Help Network, and there's tons of stuff. Wrestling did all that.
I think wrestling back then, when it was all flashy, was a very big. Brought in a lot of the younger audience.
Yes. And he's part of that generation.
Right. So that when they would go out and they would do their tours or visits or hospital visits or anything like that, it was a big deal. Like it wasn't like if you had, say, UFC, for example, it's just kind of just raw. There's not really any, I'm going to come out with, these sequence type things with all these sparkles on it. No, these guys go in and they just fight. It would be like having a person in that league coming to visit the kids going, first of all, the kids probably don't know who these people are because they don't watch it because it's violent, right? More violent than wrestling, which is supposed to seem violent, but in a not really a playful manner, just in a cartoonish, just a different realm. It's just not the
it's
same.
more friendly, more friendly for kids.
It's
like
more
there
like
is
a
violence,
super.
but
It's like superheroes that
more
you're
Warner
watching.
Brothers
Yeah, if you're watching
cartoons.
Spider-Man or Batman or whatever, and they're fighting, it's almost like that type of fighting. It's not a
Yeah,
brutal
ballet.
Yeah, ballet fighting.
Yeah.
So that appealed a lot to the kids, and the work that they did was great. And
so at the time, WCW would just they broke the rules of wrestling. They were breaking kayfabe. I can't remember how it's pronounced, but basically they were, the rule is you never open the curtain to how we do our job ever.
Right.
I'm a bad guy. I hate that guy. But behind the curtain, we're drinking buddies.
Yeah,
you never.
We share the same dressing room.
Well, exactly. Like they, back then, wrestling was, you don't break kayfabe, and kayfabe is, the word they create for always pretend like everything is real.
Right.
But what happened when the WCW thing was building is 3 guys left, went to WCW, and on air they said, yeah, we just quit WWF. And I wasn't happy over there, and they screwed me over, or they held me back. Like they were breaking that, not fourth wall, but they were basically letting the fans into how the industry actually works behind the scenes, which hadn't happened before.
Right.
So, and they were violent, and it was much more aggressive, and it was much more adult oriented. They weren't really catering to the kids anymore. And then Hulk Hogan had this big swerve where he becomes a bad guy and becomes Hollywood Hogan and all this. So the barriers were breaking down, and because of that, Bret Hart, who's still wrestling, as the world champion, and he's doing all the things for the kids, and he's maintaining this image, and no one ever sees behind the curtain. Mm-hmm. He was still maintaining that, but it was losing favor, and Vince needed a champion that was going to be able to compete with WCW, which was pulling the curtain back more. And Bret Hart doesn't do that. Like, every match is real for him. That's what he treats it, and he never breaks face on it.
Right.
So, WWF was not being able to afford to pay him anymore, so he got a deal to go work for WCW, and he said, I don't want to do it. And then Vince basically said, well, you should go because I can't afford you anymore. But because he made a deal with Bret, and he had to break the deal because he just couldn't afford it.
Right.
So, but I think, Vince McMahon also knew, like, this isn't the type of wrestler I need right now in this environment.
Yeah.
Like, I need younger guys. I need to push younger guys. I need to be more aggressive.
Right.
Like, this was when WCW was going to, or WWF was going to, they call it the Attitude Era, where there was, lots of bras and panties matches, and, it was going down the really lowest common denominator side, which was entertaining, but it was less entertaining for kids.
Right.
Where kids were going to school and saying, suck it, and, all that shit.
Yeah.
So anyway, on his last night in the company, he's like, well, Bret Hart still held to his ideals. He never really changed much. And he's like, I want to leave. I want to either, I don't want to lose the belt. I just want to, I can lose by disqualification. And then the way the contract works is, after a pay-per-view, you do the next night, which is Monday Night Raw, and then you'd be done.
Right.
So he says, there can be disqualification, then I'll just drop the title. Like, I'll just give it back on air and thank everyone for their time. And,
right.
He wanted to do it in an honorable way. He didn't want, even if it was a disqualification in a match or something, like, he just didn't want to, he wanted to,
tarnish his
leave
reputation
on a good note.
Yeah.
I didn't want, his reputation was so important to him.
Let's stay on top.
And Vince is like, well, I need you to lose. So then they find an opponent for him, and it's Shawn Michaels, who he hates. He actually hates.
Right.
Shawn Michaels was back then. He was bad news, man. He was lots of drugs and temper tantrums backstage. Like, he was like completely unhinged. Like behind the scenes, he was completely unhinged, and he got suspended so many freaking times for many different things, you know, not being safe or whatever. But anyway, so he was going to have to lose the title to Shawn Michaels, and it's like, that doesn't make any sense, like, you know. So anyway, so he kept saying, no, I'm not going to, you know, have an interference, have someone run in. The referee doesn't see it, and I lose the title that way, you know.
Right.
Like he didn't want to lose it on a mano thing.
Right. Not on skill.
You know, if I'm gonna lose, someone's, you know, gonna hit me behind the head with a chair or something, and then I go down and he pins me. Like that's what he wanted. And they just couldn't agree, and they couldn't agree. So
make better headlines that way too, you would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was his, you know. So anyway, and part of Brett's contract that he had, which no one else had, was he ended up taking a pay cut, but he had more creative control over his matches. So they couldn't change the details of his match without his permission. So he had to sign off on everything, and he wasn't going to sign off. So it was a strange situation where, what are you going to do? Like, you know. So in the end, Vince McMahon and one or two other people decided how the match was going to end. And they didn't tell anyone else, including Brett.
Right.
So anyway, the screw job was, they're fighting the match. Shawn Michaels puts Bret Hart in Bret Hart's finisher, which is the, I can't remember what it's called now, sharpshooter.
Okay.
So he puts Bret Hart in his move.
Right.
And then, you know, Bret Hart, typically, if he's putting the finishing in a move it's not a finishing move, but it's like where someone taps out.
Right.
He can't handle the pain anymore. Bret Hart would never tap out of his own finisher. That's one of the things probably in his contract or something. But so anyway, so he's there, and, you know, Shawn Michaels is putting the move on him, and he's like, okay, well, you know, this is probably where the run-in's going to happen. But instead, Vince McMahon tells the bellkeeper to ring the bell.
Oh, wow.
So he rings the bell, and he said Bret Hart tapped out, but he visibly didn't tap out. Like nothing happened.
Right.
Like Vince McMahon just, oh, no, he tapped out. So Vince McMahon was at ringside. And at that point, the referee ran out of the building, ran to his car, and drove away. Because he was terrified, because he promised Brett he wouldn't screw him over.
Oh, shit.
And he didn't really.
No,
but
well, he's following orders. I mean, he's still got a job to do.
So he ran and left. There's another guy that ran and left, Cornette, who was there, and he was a behind-the-scenes guy. So he ran, went to his car. They were the first two people to leave the arena. And then Bret Hart gets up, and he's like, what? You can see he was like, what the fuck just happened?
He's confused, yeah.
And then he realizes that he lost the title in the ring, and he starts to lose it. He's yelling at Vince, who's, you know, ringside, and then he spits in his face. He's the biggest loogie I've ever seen. It spits in his face.
Right.
And said, "You screwed me. This isn't what we discussed," and blah blah blah. And then he goes ringside, and where the announcer's table, he just starts trashing stuff. And he takes all the equipment there, the stuff you're not supposed to break, and he starts breaking. And they're like, I can't believe it, like they're $15,000 pieces of equipment. He's just chucking them and throwing them and breaking everything.
Right.
And he's like, and he never broke kayfabe. Like he never said he was going to WCW. He never said anything on air.
Right.
It was all behind the scenes, and, you know, he never broke that wall.
Right.
And then he went in the ring and he did movements with his arms to show he's going to WCW. So he just like kind of drew in the air WCW, and he was like, "Fuck you," and he's like.
Well, hey, the ratings on that one was probably pretty high, so that's all that McMahon was probably worried about.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was the Montreal Screwjob, and so after that, because he broke character.
Right.
And he kind of, after that, wrestling really went for, okay, we know everything's fake. Fake is in, it's choreographed, it's predetermined, the end results of the match are predetermined, and the whole veil, that's when the whole veil really got pulled back. And that's when wrestling totally changed.
Yeah. I think
that was like
I think the wrestler with the Mickey Rourke in it did a really good job of showing
yes,
of showing it all, and the injuries and the steroids, and
and that movie couldn't have happened unless all this shit had happened first.
Well, exactly. It just kind of opened up the doors, and you know what?
You
want to know what happens?
Well,
this is one
literally,
version of it.
Yeah. So anyway, so that documentary, so back to the point, was this is where the documentary wasn't going to be about that, but they filmed everything. And they even had Brett wired, so when he went backstage to confront McMahon, he was wired.
Well, he would have to agree to be wired. You can't just automatically just snap your fingers. Okay, he's wired up now.
No. Well, they
he's
said,
still pissed off at the time.
They said, let's wire you. I don't want to wear a wire. I don't believe in that. Like, this is, a problem between me and Vince. It has nothing to do with anyone else.
This wasn't part of the show wire. This wasn't like, okay, walks in, okay, everyone's got their microphones and stuff. I thought you meant wired that way.
Yeah. No. So anyway, his camera crew followed him, and they wouldn't let him into the room. But you can hear the audio.
Oh, okay.
And he goes in the room and he says, "Vince, you fucked me," and blah blah blah. And it's all captured in the documentary. And then he actually punches Vince and gave him an uppercut, gave him a black eye, and literally like lifted him off the ground. And he punched him so hard he went flying.
Right.
And
real punch.
And and then as he's back, Brett's backstage, and you see all the other wrestlers. There's like Undertaker and all those guys, and he's like, "Did you know? Were you in on it? Were you part of fucking me over and all this?" And you see all these wrestlers, like, you don't see them behind all being buddies, right? You never see that.
Right.
You're seeing good guys and bad guys, and they're all like, "Brett, I'm so sorry, I didn't know anything about it." It's like, you really got screwed over. Mick Foley, I think, was suspended after that because he sided with Brett.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a fucking mess.
Yeah. Well, yeah. He had his share of issues too, probably with them also. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, so that's how like the documentary got overtaken. Like something else happened in the middle of making this documentary, and it ended up being about that. And the documentary is so popular, it's kind of like a famous documentary now because, right place, right time.
It's like a cult.
But I think that's kind of with this Scientology was the same thing.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to watch that. Might watch that today or tonight.
So which one? The Scientology one?
Yeah.
The Wrestling with Shadows would be interesting too. I don't know if it's still on there or not.
I think I did watch it because from what you're saying, I remember seeing it. I do remember seeing it.
And then before that, I was watching the documentary on Netflix called "Hail Satan."
Oh,
with a question mark.
With the question mark.
Hail Satan?
Yeah. What options do I have? Well, I've got the God portion, or I've got the Satan portion. Let's see, which one should I go for?
It was interesting how, like, it's basically about the current, like, the Church of Satan that was founded by Anton Svander LaVey, like way back, I don't know, it was the 60s or 70s or something.
Right.
Like, it's the same church, but they're probably shifting. It's probably what?
It's probably, well, I mean, when you say that word, I mean, Church of Satan, I'm sure the first thing you think is the fires of hell, and the building is a bright red barn color type thing, and you walk in, but without even watching it, I would assume that because someone gives something a name, you're kind of falsely mentally preparing yourself for something that it probably isn't. So when you go into it and you go, you know what, these people are actually, if you compare religions, because whether it's Satan, God, or Scientology, or Buddhism, or pick one. There's enough of them out there. Everyone has one. Okay, so and they all have their
Jedi.
different.
There's another one.
They're different shticks, right? So some of them believe in Mary, some people don't. Some people believe this, some people believe that. Same with the one for Satan. I'm sure when you really delve deep into these and you kind of look at their philosophies, like I haven't looked myself, but I'm just figuring because sometimes things are construed a certain way. If you look at it and look at their values, they're probably not the same values that you had in your head that what you thought they would have been.
Exactly.
And that's like the shows with the gypsies and stuff. in your mind, you've got a certain picture of them. Sometimes when you do watch it, it's exactly the same picture or it's totally different. It just kind of depends. And just like in shows, any show, like the polygamy shows, you think, oh, this, this is what you think of it. And then you watch it and you go, you know what, there's more to it. It's not a one-way thing. There's so many variables in all these different things that makes them different.
We all have a public perception of what something is.
Right.
And that's really what this is about. Like, it's talking about what the Church of Satan is doing, like, nowadays, like how they've evolved. But the documentary ended up being about how the Church of Satan is pushing polytheism. I think that's the right word, where there should be, the government should allow multiple religions to have a viewpoint. Like it shouldn't be just, Christian or Catholic or I guess Catholic. It shouldn't just be, if you're going to institute rules in courtrooms and, public buildings and stuff like that, that all religions should have the ability to be represented. So and that's what this documentary is about.
So if you took money, for example,
they're not pushing their own religion.
Right.
At all. In fact, what they're doing is they're saying, you're discriminating against Buddhism and Church of Latter-day Saints. Like, you're not. You go to a government building and there's a Catholic thing there.
Yeah.
What about all these other religions? Like, how come they're not being represented?
So, yeah.
Like, why is it only this one religion? Like, that's actually what's the word? It's bigoted. It's a bigoted opinion or something, or that's not even the right word. But you know what I mean? Like, you can't, if you're only going to allow one religion to be represented in a government building or the school or whatever, then that's wrong. So that's what the whole thing is about, how they're pushing for it not to be one religion running everything. It's not fair. Everyone should have a say, and everyone's a good person inside if you let them be, and you can't just push people back just because they're not your particular religion that you like, and you can't let your religion rule the government. Well, like, that's not fair. I mean, that's what the whole thing's about, and it's really, really interesting.
I mean, they have it on their money. I mean, in God we trust. Well, okay. Well, that's...
Which one?
They say not to mix politics and religion. So what you've done, essentially, is mixed it. You've put it right on the money. In God we trust. Yeah. Well, it doesn't say in
Buddha
or Allah or whatever. Like, pick one. Like I said, there's a dime a dozen. Every country seems to have their own. It's like no one can unite except for each government. So to be able to put, now I'm not too familiar in all the differences. I mean, there's studies you can take. People have studied religions and stuff, and I've never done that, so I'm not too sure what the differences are, and I'm totally oblivious of it. But I'm sure that each one has its own. Well, obviously they have their own following and they have their own beliefs, but to be able to take a government and say, okay, well, we're picking this one. Well, okay, so
then it's not government anymore. It's.
Well, you're mixed.
Like, it's not government if it's church. Like, it's separation of church and state, right? That's the whole idea. And it's like, if there's no separation of church and state, then what the hell is this?
It's amalgamation. One's protecting the other, pretty much. It's like doctors and lawyers; they protect themselves. It's just religion and politics. I'm sure the politicians, kind of protect their own religion at some point, because I mean, you're not going to have someone from a different religion become, say, the president of the U.S., right?
Yes. Actually, they're probably not allowed. Like,
if you don't believe in this particular God, not that politics and religion should be mixed, but they are. And if you don't believe in this God, then you can't run. Pretty much is what they're saying. So in that aspect, it is, what do you call it, bigoted or whatever term you would use for that, which is a shame. But I know they have religions like, is it United? I think it is. Where it's just kind of a generalized. I don't know if that's true or not.
Oh yeah,
I could be totally full of crap.
Yeah,
but from what I heard,
if we are, but
yeah, because I mean, United seems to be where it's kind of mixed. It's not
they
really
a little bit of everything, but it's not. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, the lightning bolt's not going to come down and kill you because now you're on birth control because Catholic Church doesn't believe in birth control, so you're going to burn in hell type thing. Like everyone has their. Yeah, it's crazy. It's just a mishmash.
Yep.
Yeah. They should.
I'm just making show notes here at the same time.
Yeah.
There you go. There.
Well, it's like this. I mean, bringing the world together. The best way to do it is to have a unified belief. I would think. And I think that's how when they elect their presidents and whatnot, basically what they're looking for is they're trying to find everyone's, I don't want to call it weak point, and try and get them to vote for them. So each well, in the U.S. and the States and stuff, I guess they go and they do their rallies and stuff, and they appeal to the people from that area to be able to vote for them. But you can't bend your beliefs, going to one place and then having a whole different belief in a different place just to try and get votes.
Yeah.
But not everyone is the same. Everyone's different. Everyone believes in different things. And because one person doesn't believe in the other one doesn't mean you have to start a war.
Yep.
And I think more wars were started, I think, just on religious beliefs.
I think that's an actual fact.
In history, yeah.
More wars are started on religious belief.
Can't we just all get along?
Well, that's what COVID's for.
Yeah.
It's forcing us to unify, despite religious beliefs or,
Yeah,
we all have to help each other out. Or if we don't, like it's interesting. It's unifying the world in different ways. I'm seeing pictures online of different nations that were never friends that are, working with each other to.
Right. It's nice to see that. It's too bad that the only thing that really sells is chaos.
Mm-hmm.
The only time you can really see, puppies and fluff is usually on Facebook, and a lot of people watch them. So obviously it's a good thing, and why not just keep the ball rolling and let's do some positive sides all the time. At least something, not doom and gloom all the time.
There's lots of negatives about this COVID thing. Obviously, deaths and people getting sick and all that stuff, but I think it's very important for us to, to pull as many positives as we can out of this, and so we don't all go crazy. But I mean, I get to spend time with my kids. I mean, that's a positive. It's forcing more family time in a lot of homes, which is good because we're so distracted with all the things we have to go out and do, and there's so many schedules, and this kid's got hockey and this kid's got basketball, and it's like there's so many things we have to go out and do, and there's so many obligations that we're not taking the time to enjoy anything. We're too busy doing instead of enjoying things. We're not smelling, stop and smell the roses. Well, we're not doing that. Well, we are now. It's like I found myself appreciating things that I didn't appreciate before.
Yeah, it's a whole new dynamic. If you used to running around all the time, bringing, say, your kids to sports and stuff, and now all of a sudden you're home, you don't have to rush around. You don't have to hurry up. Okay, I got to get home from work. Get hard to make supper. Okay, we got to get you ready. Okay, well, your knee pads or whatever are crapped out. Now we're going to buy some more. Like just the whole dynamic of it, and just staying home and spending time with those people is different. I mean, unfortunately, you have the houses that have people that are normally abused, and now they're kind of locked up with their abusers. That.
Oh my God, I didn't think of that, Todd.
That is.
Oh man.
That's that's really unfortunate. That's the really the bad side of this. But And then there's also people who normally like depression and stuff. And with this going on, I'm sure it doesn't help.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good to have the ties open with people or groups that are available that you can. I mean, you can't physically go there, but if you could at least go to a place, a forum or a live something where you can actually talk to people, and yeah. Anyways, sorry, I just kind of went, I just kind of slid off the cliff there, but
That's okay. Well, I think we're gonna cap it off here. I've logged in, just logged into work, and I'm just gonna do a little bit of work, and then I'm going to go build a bike.
Build a bike.
Yep. We bought 2 bikes. We bought a bike for each kid, and Ellie wasn't old enough. I get a really good deal at the time, so like, well, let's buy Ellie's now.
Training wheels?
Just never assembled. Yeah, I had training wheels, yeah, but we never assembled it, so we just built Abby's bike. But Ellie's old enough now, but my bike pumps are all broke. Oh, no. I left them in the garage this winter, and now they don't work anymore. So I don't know if the cold...
the cup piece that goes up and down is probably shrunk from the cold, so it's probably not grabbing the sides to be able to build up any pressure.
It's not grabbing.
If you bring it inside for a little bit, it might, overnight. You can try it and see
you think
if it works. It wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt.
I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been nice. It was nice for a couple of weeks, so I thought it would have been warm enough in the garage. But
what was it yesterday?
But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the gas station, and I think I should be able to just fill up the tires there anyway.
Yeah. You just have to find a gas station that the only one that I found that actually you don't have to pay is Co-op.
Yeah. It's the only one I ever go to. So
yeah, nice people there.
Yep.
Get free air.
Yeah, free air. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to sign off here, and I'm just saving my show notes. I'm going to email myself and throw it in the Dropbox, and I'm going to try to have it out there for Monday. Right. I'm not going to spoil what's happening tomorrow to our audience, but something very special is happening on Saturday night. Yeah, I don't know when we're allowed to spoil it, but I'm very excited.
Saturday night?
Yeah. Saturday at 9.
Oh, at 9. I thought you said Saturday night. I'm thinking Saturday night.
Well, 9 o'clock Saturday night.
Oh, wait. I must have misread that. I thought it was 9 a.m.
No, 9 p.m.
Oh, 9 p.m. My mistake. Yeah. My mistake. Saturday at 9.
It all has to do with
yeah, it
kids
says
being in bed.
It says Saturday at 9.
Oh, I didn't specify. I'm sorry. 9 p.m. p.m.
Okay. Good to know. So I might have a few drinks tonight then. I have to worry about getting up in the morning.
I drank the last of the booze last night. I've got nothing left.
I just started.
I had a mimosa. Like, oh God.
Yeah. You remember
my thing?
You remember the rum that I had brought out to
Keycon?
No. Out to Manny's. Out in
oh yeah, like the Bonnie?
Like the Bonnie, yeah. It's the same stuff. So I tried a drink of that last night, and I got some of that, that bubbly water, Bluray or whatever they call it, bubbly. Yeah, I tried it with that to see what it tastes like. But my taste buds are shot, so I couldn't really taste it. But I had a little bit of it.
Well, you can feel the sting, though. Yeah,
and it just kind of drags out a little bit in the morning. I forgot what alcohol kind of does. So this is my rough morning voice.
That's why. All right. All right. Throw it in the thing, and I'm going to try to do something with it tomorrow. Tonight we're actually going to do board games through Skype.
Oh, nice. Oh, have you tried Zoom? Friends. Have you tried this Zoom one that people are talking about?
No.
Because Mom,
sure what the
if you look on Mom's Facebook, you'll see they had a thing where there's 4 of them on the screen, and they're all having wine, and it was a Zoom call. And I've heard a few things. I guess classrooms. There's different people that use this new program instead of Skype. So it's got like at least 4 screens, and you can see. And I don't know if it's a better better quality than Skype, but it'd be definitely worth looking into.
Well, I was talking to Sam from Witch Police, and he, I was mentioning we use Skype for a few,
Mm-hmm.
and he says, "Oh man, I'm using Messenger." He's recording from Messenger.
Okay. Well, hey, if it works, that's good.
He says it's better. There's no lag. There's no nothing. There's no issues. I'm like, really? Yeah. So, and the audio that came out on those episodes, like I listened to a bunch. Like, holy shit, this is great.
So this is the Messenger, like what we use for video. Say when the kids were doing their stuff.
And he just goes out to his Zoom.
Okay.
On his computer, and then that's it. It was like shit.
Yeah, because you can use either audio and video. So we're just going to be using audio, I would assume. Yeah.
Yeah, just use the audio, and then you're fine. That's what he's been doing.
Cool.
I think he's done some video too, but he also used Instagram. There's a way to do Instagram.
Yeah,
it came out not too bad, as long as it's going out to your Zoom.
Yeah.
You know.
It'd be the same signal. It'd be coming off my phone anyway. So.
Well, maybe we'll Sylvia and I look at Zoom today and see if that's worthwhile. But then you have to sign up, and I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we can try the Messenger one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what that looks like and see if we're happy with it. If not, then we can kind of mess around. We got to do another one with Corey soon.
Yeah. Always trying new technology.
He'd be here today, but he had to work today.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, sign off. We'll see you on the flip side.
All righty, sir.
Like I said, send me the file. You got some shit to watch.
Yep.
And then you can report back.
All right, then.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.